It's insane how people are always claiming these surveillance videos of murderers are women. Women don't murder anywhere near to the degree that men murder. Also, the father in law is an exact match with the walk, and he's buddies with the police. Hmm.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to True Crime Unsolved. I'm Miles Reef. I'm here as always with my buddy Sean Cahill. This is the place where we tackle the stories that the TV networks won't touch. Guys, it's Monday. It's time to get into some comments. As you can see, I am still overseas with my friend the Plant in my lo-fi setting here in London. But we are working diligently to keep the channel going, and we're keeping content coming to you guys. So, Sean, before we get into our comment react, is there any channel business that we need to get into before we get started?
I guess I did want to say, and I'm sure I speak for you too, Miles, thank you to all of Lacey Anderson's family. We just spent, I think, 5 or 6 weeks straight covering Lacey's story. And man, what an experience for us. I feel like we've obviously covered a lot of cases in the first several months that we've had this channel going, but that one was really long and really intense and deep. I think somehow, some way, True Crime Unsolved seems to have really like struck a chord in that community, and we got more outreach from locals and direct, conversations and emails and messages on social media from people in that town and connected to the case, including a lot of people that knew Lacey more than we've ever had before. And we've had a lot, especially on Chance Engelbert. We got a lot of that too. But this, I think, was even another level for us. So I also wanted to thank the people in town, everyone that reached out to us with information. Some of you were very frightened to speak out. Thank you for doing so anyway. It really helped us kind of sort through the wheat from the chaff, the truth from maybe some of the rumors, because there were a lot of rumors on that case. So yeah, I just wanted to thank the family and everyone that reached out to us, because we couldn't have done it the way that we did it without you guys. I think it would have been a different type of show if it was just us kind of like reading old news articles and trying to interpret what may have happened. This was a real like human resources on the ground helping us get that story out. So I think that's the biggest piece of news.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. I mean, we've spoken to people from all sides of this story. We've spoken to the local press. We've had email exchanges with a lot of different characters involved in this thing. So it's been pretty crazy to see the impact that we've had, and just sort of being involved with it. It's
Yeah, it
it's
definitely.
pretty it's sorry. It's I was just gonna say it's kind of humbling, to know that, our little podcast is actually like this whole town's kind of like reacting to it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and you can sort of feel like the weight of responsibility in getting it right and making sure that, like our goal is obviously to amplify these stories and to get attention to cases like Lacey's, and this is one where we could really feel it. There's sometimes you can just sit in front of a microphone and talk and publish it and hope that somewhere someone listens to it. But when you start hearing massive amounts of feedback from people that did, it starts to feel a little real and a little different. So yeah, I guess we're really grateful for that. I sincerely hope that whether it's from this podcast or just the dust getting kicked up or something that comes afterwards, answers come for Lacey's family. It does seem like there's
100%.
an immense amount of interest in that happening. So yeah.
I mean, if you judge just by, you know, people reaching out to us and the reactions that we've been getting, it seems like a lot of people want a solution for this, including the local press. So yeah, it's pretty
I
great
got
to
the
see.
feeling I got the feeling, Miles, that like a lot of people have been thinking about Lacey this whole time, all these years since the whole thing happened, and that a lot of people are just afraid to bring it up. It seems like they're because it's unsolved, because a lot of the people in the world of that story are kind of perceived as dangerous or scary. And there's also this distrust everyone kept telling us about in regards to law enforcement, in regards to some of the local government officials. It just felt like people were really relieved to have like some outsiders to be able to talk to off the record and just say, "Oh my God, I've been thinking about this for all this time. I'm absolutely terrified to speak up about it in my community, but I want you guys to know X, Y, and Z." So it was very, very strange,
Yeah.
but also really good. I think that's probably the best use of this podcast is being able to do stuff like that. For people who might otherwise not want to speak up or feel like they have nowhere to bring their information. So that was really eye opening and really, I want to say cool, I guess is the word for us to be able to kind of plug in and do something like that. So
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Yeah, and obviously, Sean already said at the top, but big thanks to Lacey's family. Big thanks to Nick and Felicia for just staying on top of it and doing such an amazing job promoting it on social media every day, just sort of like reposting and reposting. It's been really amazing to see. Um,
Absolutely.
all right, so having said all that, the first batch of comments that we're gonna go through are on some of the Lacey Anderson vids that obviously we've been posting for the last month. So our first comment is from HRDNIPZ. I do not want to try to pronounce that, but that is the screen name. And HR says, considering the people she hung around, was it opiates she was doing? What are the odds that someone gave her a hot shot to forcibly make her accidentally overdose? I think this is such an interesting comment because obviously one of the things that's always been in the mix with what may have happened to Lacey was did she overdose and then someone or some group of people took her body and dumped it in that area where she was found, right? What you're adding to that is was that actually done intentionally, right? And yeah, I think that's quite possible. I mean, nobody knows what the cause of death was, right? We know that's been the big mystery this whole time, right? That no one can say what actually happened to her. So I think that's quite possible. What I don't think is possible, or well, I should say what I don't think is probable is that she walked out into that remote area and then overdosed, right? I think if she overdosed somewhere else, and then somebody had to bring her body out there and get rid of it. Now, was that done because people were freaking out, like, oh my God, this person overdosed. We don't want that on us. Let's bring her somewhere, or was that an intentional thing that was done for the same reason that, something else might have been done to her in some other way to keep her from speaking to the police, which is what so many people seem to think.
Yeah, exactly. And we've said it before, and we'll say it again now. One of the biggest mysteries is that her body was just in such a shouldn't even say body. I should say Lacey's remains were in such a state that it was really impossible to tell what happened. There was no broken bones as far as looking like she was bludgeoned or had like violently killed in that way. I think her remains were scattered, but it looked like wildlife had done it.
Yeah.
Her skull was intact, meaning like she probably wasn't shot in the head. But was she strangled? Was she poisoned? Was she given a hot shot, like you're saying? Smothered? I mean, we don't know, and that makes it difficult when you don't know how this happened. You're kind of missing step one. All you know is, okay, well, here's her remains, but we have no idea how they got here. The rest becomes conjecture and sort of just contextualizing what her life was like and who she was around, which is what we've spent most of our time, honestly, doing, given the lack of physical evidence. So yeah, I think you're right.
Right.
It could have been that. Who knows?
Well, and obviously, she was using, so, that would have been a low impact way to, get rid of her, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to, you know, using a weapon or, it's a lot, it's a lot harder to take someone out that way. And it takes a lot more guts and, it's a lot more involved, not to get too graphic and go down the road with it, but you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's an interesting thought. So thanks for
Yeah.
leaving it. All right, I'll take this next one. Chino Too Sweet says, "What's up, fellas? It's been a while. What's up, Chino?" Chino says, "This audio is insane if connected. All I can think about is everyone talking about the corruption. So it makes me think, if that's true, then maybe these guys are connected to the police through family or acquaintances. I'm hoping this is a lead. By the way, I like how you guys are intelligent and also have street knowledge. Your channel is blowing up. Congrats." Well, thank you for the kind words. Maybe we should subtitle this podcast "True Crime Unsolved: Street Knowledge." I love that. That's something that somebody is putting on us. Well, that's great. I like that we're throwing that aura off. As far as the audio goes, yeah, I mean, look, we just released that on our final episode of Lacey Anderson, where we talked about the suspects and the theories, and we got this audio recording. It's actually a series of audio and video recordings,
Yeah.
all kind of driving at the same thing from Mike and Barb. They had gotten it from a stranger who had recorded somebody giving some information about what may have been Lacey's last night on Earth and how they may have been around for some of it. I don't want to go into any more detail than that, but we ultimately decided it would be really irresponsible to play that or air it. I think we would be putting people in real danger. It's impossible for Miles and I to tell if this audio and video is even real. It could totally be some people making a hoax or somebody with information that they genuinely felt was pertinent, but could not be. I mean, this kind of stuff happens in investigations all the time. People are convinced that their friend, gave them information about a murder. The police look into it and it's totally like bogus. Someone misremembers a night where someone was drunk and it's not quite the way they thought, or it's just pranksters or hoaxes. So we don't really know what to make of it. I know it intrigued Lacey's family and it's been given to investigators and they have looked into it and we don't know what happened from there. But on our end, if it is real and what the people are saying on the tape is real, then for us to put it out there or identify or even give a smallest clue of who these people might be that are talking about it could get somebody else killed. And so I know you guys maybe were hoping to hear it on this channel or that we would publish it, but honestly, given what may have been the reason for Lacey being killed, people thinking she was an informant or cooperating with police, these are the people that we're dealing with. So why would we put somebody else in that exact same position, even though it's been almost 2 decades later? So yeah, all I can say is you're right. It's insane audio. And I do hope that it leads to something, you
Yeah.
know?
I just want to add to what you said that if any of you guys are kind of like going, they're making drama out of this and they're trying to make it sound, bigger than it is. We have been contacted by the person who believes that they are the person on the tapes that we received, and that individual was very, very worried about us coming forward with it publicly because they're worried for their own safety. So I do believe that I do believe that they're authentic. I do believe that the recordings are authentic. And I do believe that the people that we've been talking to, that we've spoken to, both the person that did the recording and the person that was recorded. And I do believe that they're real people, and we've spoken to both of them. And as Sean said, we're not going to play that tape on here because this person is like legitimately worried about blowback. And they're obviously older now, time has passed and they have a life and they're very, very, very scared. So,
Well, and I'll say too that, the people that reached out about that recording had knowledge about what was on those recordings that only the people on those recordings would have. There's no way somebody could have guessed and just reached out cold to us and said, "Hey, it's me."
yeah,
So yeah, in that
yeah,
regard, yes, I still would say there's no way to know if they're telling us the truth or anything, but it doesn't matter.
sure, sure,
If we have to err on the side of safety and not
yeah,
be reckless and irresponsible with other people's safety and lives.
right. And
So
I just want to add to it, they have they have spoken to the authorities. So that those recordings have been given to the investigators, and the person who is, allegedly on that recording or series of recordings has been spoken to by the authorities. So it's not like we're sitting on something and like, that could possibly break the investigation. It has been looked at.
yep, that's right on. So, I guess for now we've told you as much as we can. And honestly, it's as much as we know. Sure,
Right.
there's a couple of details about the recordings that we are choosing not to share, but ultimately, the important thing is that they do drive at the motive for Lacey's murder being people in her world thinking that she was cooperating with police and feeling like their own criminal activities were in danger of being exposed. And that was kind of the crux of the issue that they had with Lacey. I think that's the
Yeah.
most important part of this whole thing.
Yeah, it
So,
kind of links up with what everyone, the majority of people believe happened here. All right, so let me take this next comment. Maggie May, hi Maggie. Maggie May 9404 says, people know what happened, but everyone is afraid of the bears in Norfolk because things like this happen when you speak up, you disappear. I pray for justice. So Maggie, I guess my question on your comment is, who are the bears that you refer to? Because I know that Lacey's boyfriend at the time of her going missing and then obviously turning up deceased, their last name, I believe, was Beers?
I think it was
Bears?
bear spelled like the paint, I believe,
Got it.
Bear.
Which is different than the spelling here, or are you using like an old-timey slang term for cops? Because I know that back in the day, like Smokey and the Bandit and stuff, it was like the bears are coming. Um,
Right. It's a good
know,
point. we're not sure what bear you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm curious, and Maggie, if you're watching this, let us know because it's a very intriguing comment, and we'd obviously love to know what you are actually referring to.
Well, yeah, and we've heard it both ways. I mean, people are obviously some people very afraid of Jamie from what we've heard, but then other people are super afraid of the police. We've
Right.
heard it both ways. So really, Maggie, as far as where we're sitting, you could be talking about either or both. Um, but yeah, it seems like the point stands though. People are afraid to speak up about this story, kind of like we were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and we can verify that from our own experience from speaking to some people on the phone and emails and all kinds of communication that we've had over the last couple of weeks. You want to take this next one?
sure. This is Lisa Kerber. I believe I remember Lisa from last week. I think she's Nick's mother. So
Mm.
she says, Miles and Sean, your words are so true. Lacey's family are also victims in this crime. Yes, they are. Thankful for your thoughtfulness and for doing what you can through your platform to get the word out. I pray this will all bring some new results. If the PD is paying attention, there is one psychologist I would trust to hypnotize me and get better descriptions of who I saw that day, sitting in front of Jamie's house when I did. I truly feel they know something. Right. So last week, Lisa, I remember you left us a comment saying that when this whole thing went down, you went over to Lacey's boyfriend Jamie's house and stood in front of it, tried to talk to him. I think maybe even had a sign and had some interactions with different people who came and went through the neighborhood during that time. So the offer here is to maybe get hypnotized and try to get deeper into those memories and see if anything important surfaces. Yeah, that
I
would be
think there was
great if
like there
anybody.
was a specific car, right, that she had mentioned, and
Yeah.
like what there it was like a certain color, and there was a gentleman that was he said something.
Absolutely. Well, what I love about Lisa and her son and everybody in that family is that they are not afraid to speak up, kind of like a counter to what we were just talking about. They feel like they've got nothing left to lose here. They've already lost a loved one. And so they are on a mission to get answers. So, Lisa, I really applaud you for publicly coming out and commenting on all this stuff, offering to help. And saying, yeah, I've been around some of the people that I'm suspicious of, and I'm not afraid to say it publicly. And I'd like to tell investigators more.
Yeah,
Right on.
yeah.
And also
Um,
thanks for your kind words. I don't want to skip that too. You've been very nice to us in the last two comments. So
Yeah,
we
no, we appreciate it. And we are trying to walk a bit of a tightrope here. So we appreciate anyone who's appreciating how we're how we're approaching some of
yeah,
this stuff because it's not like Sean said, we're not just like reading past tense stuff and telling you about something that happened. We're literally like we're involved in this stuff now. We have people who are involved reaching out to us and
yep,
potential witnesses and all kinds of stuff. So it's an interesting situation to be in. Like it's great to feel like we're actually having a real impact, but it's also obviously kind of like potentially legally fraught with us, what we say and what we put up here and how we approach it. So we do appreciate everybody who's taken this journey with us.
You know
So
what? Let me say one thing really quick, Miles,
sure.
because I want to be clear with everybody in case we're accidentally leading them down the wrong road here. We actually have no idea who did this. We have heard people 100% convinced that it's person A, 100% convinced that it's person B, or theory C. We've heard it so many different ways with people that have really good evidence for all of it. And so that's why for us, it's a little bit of a tightrope because we want to respect everybody's input and everybody's evidence and everybody's confidential bending of our ear to tell us what they know. But I will say a lot of the stories we've heard are at cross purposes with one another. There is no one driving narrative except for all of them tie into Lacey cooperating with police and having the perception out there that she may be a snitch. Unfortunately for her, there were a lot of dangerous people in her life where that info could prove to be fatal. And it seems like probably did somewhere along the line, but who? We still don't know. So don't think that we're like, gatekeeping some secret answer or solve to this thing just because people are talking to us off the record. We haven't solved this. If we had, we'd be on the phone already to the FBI or to the
Right.
state police in Nebraska. But we're still at the phase where we're putting up tip lines and hoping to get the information that's coming to us to the proper people who can actually do something about it. So just to be super clear.
Right. And the one piece of potentially like groundbreaking evidence that we've received has already been
Yeah.
given to the authorities, right? So it's like we're not saying that like certainly in those recordings, it is pointing towards certain people, but the cops already have that. So it's not like we can run to them and say, hey, we might have cracked it, right?
Yep, exactly, exactly.
Um,
But yeah,
so we're gonna switch gears, guys. Back to Liz Barraza. So Casby 6126 says, seeing the truck disappeared completely, could it be in a body of water? When levels are at their lowest, maybe send a drone over to check around the local area. I mean, I can't imagine that the cops, again, I always go back to Michael Ritchie and what a professional he is, and just the many conversations that we've had with him, and how dedicated he is to trying to solve that case. uh, you know I can't imagine that they haven't thought about that. Have they drawn the water? It's a good question. I mean, it's certainly a way to get rid of a truck.
it is. And, there's a lot of water in that area. You're right around the Gulf Coast. Here's the thing about that. They may have droned the water, they may have looked, but the fact is that it is a great way to get rid of murder weapons, cars, dead bodies less so because they tend to float or remains wash up. Like that actually seems to be a poor way to get rid of a body over time. But cars, I mean, I just read something like 2 or 3 months ago where a missing persons case was solved from like the 1960s because they finally found this car in like a pond where the person had accidentally drunkenly maybe driven in there. And so, decades later, these cars do turn up in bodies of water. I think it's a good guess. It's as good a guess as any. I would think that a smart killer would want to get rid of the vehicle once they realized by watching the news that it had been photographed so many times and that the police knew the make, model, and roughly the year of it. And it was that specific. I would get rid of it. I don't know how I would do it because I'm not a conniving killer, but this is certainly one way. So I think it's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
How would Michael Ritchie get the resources to drone every pond, river, lake, and stream in the greater Houston area or even Texas? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. He may have done some of it. We actually didn't talk about that with him, but what an interesting thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the comment.
Absolutely, yeah. Something that no one's brought up too. I mean, we've talked about that truck several times, and I don't
Oh
think we've.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone's got thoughts about it, the decals and the
Mhm.
different ways that it could have disappeared. Did they have someone in the neighborhood with a garage?
Yeah.
It's definitely a big piece. Okay, so you got this next one, and it is a doozy of a comment.
The chosen one too. I need to correct my theory, he or she says. Okay, hold on. I remember this
I
comment,
remember
Jamal.
Chosen One.
Okay, chosen
Yep.
one. Correct me if my memory's wrong here. I think chosen one had a really intricate theory about the Liz Barraza case involving her being the wrong target because someone was actually trying to kill a neighbor that lived in that neighborhood
Yep.
whose house looked the same. Like from the street, if you looked at Google Street Views, it could have been Liz's house, except it wasn't. And
Yep.
so their theory was somebody accidentally went to Liz's house and killed her, thinking it was supposed to be a different target.
Yeah, and I believe it was marital issues that the person who lived, sort of like it was like a
Yeah.
mirror image on the other street, and they were having some marital issues, and this was a hired hit, and they
Yeah.
just got the wrong person.
Yeah, it was like that couple had everything you would expect Liz and Sergio to have had, like infidelity and money problems and like the things where you normally see
Right.
a hired hit in a marriage. All right, well, here, let me read it because it says there's a
Yeah, let's get
correction to
into
that
it.
theory.
Yeah.
So, Chosen One says, I need to correct my theory. I now believe that a neighbor was involved, not a murder for hire. Okay. This was personal, but not personal against Liz. The act was driven by a personal, selfish desire that needed fulfillment. The killer knew about the garage sale because they were a neighbor. All they needed to do was look out their window or walk around the block to know about it. I believe they stole the truck from someone they were trying to frame, the owner of the truck. Okay. This theory still involves the people from my last theory, but
Mhm.
now I believe that intended victim from my last wrong address theory is actually the planner, the murderer, or both. They are more involved than they led me to believe. With the wrong address theory, I think they meant to say,
Yeah.
I was taken down the rabbit hole that was meant for law enforcement, but I didn't recognize the red flags soon enough. Law enforcement would have taken as long to see the flaws in the wouldn't have taken as long to see the flaws in the wrong address theory. All right, so The
Ooh,
crux of this, I think they're saying, really the big thing is it's still the same people in the same neighborhood that he believes were involved, but
right,
now that the intended victim was actually the one who planned it all along.
right. Which like I I'm wondering if the chosen one actually has contact with these folks.
It
That
sounds
they're
like it.
is that where they're getting this information from?
Sounds like so. I will say,
Because he
chosen
actually says, or he or she chosen one. I don't know your gender, but it says they are more involved than they led me to believe. This is a
right.
wild, wild comment.
I'm a little lost in it, to be honest with you. So it says the act was driven by personal selfish desire that needed fulfillment. So I don't know what that means. Is this a thrill killing? Because you also said it's not personal against Liz,
Mm.
but that it was personal.
But is
Um,
it, yes, it's still, even though it's now you're now saying it was the intended victim and not the other spouse, does that mean that it was still involved in sort of their marital strife and it was an accident? Yeah, I'm confused.
I guess we should ask for clarity because chosen one, it does sound like you've got a solid working theory here and that you've put a lot of work into this. I think we're just a little lost because of some of the vague language. And also, look, maybe Miles and I need a little refresher on what the initial theory
Mm,
was because we're kind
yeah.
of trying to pull from our memory from like 2 months ago
And I know
what
we
your
did
initial.
cover it in a comment video that we
Well,
did.
come back, chosen one. Maybe if you feel comfortable, sort of like elucidating a little bit more here, we'd love to hear it. This is
Yeah.
very intriguing. I just don't
Yeah,
know what to
or
make of it.
send us an email, at our email address that's in the channel description,
There
and
you
maybe
go.
you can give us a more detailed breakdown, and maybe there's stuff that you can share on there that you don't want us sharing on the channel. But
Totally.
if there's a way for us to sort of parse this out a little bit more for everybody else, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the comment, though. It's super,
Absolutely.
super intriguing. Want to know
Yeah,
more.
thanks for continuing to watch the channel. Okay, Death by Chocolate 584 says Liz's dad is currently battling cancer and undergoing treatment. Please share this interview. So, thank you, Death by Chocolate. So I think we've mentioned a few times that Bob's having some health issues. I don't know if we specifically said what it was, but yeah, Bob is in a pretty severe battle right now with cancer. He's being very strong, and he's still got a very strong online presence, and he's still posting really inspiring stuff. And the last couple of times that we've reached out to them, they've still gotten back to us, Um, but and Rosemary's been super communicative, and everything that I can see, they're hanging in there, and they're fighting the good fight. But yeah, any thoughts and prayers that good energy that anyone wants to put out there for Bob, they could really use it right now. So thanks
Yeah, we
for
love
thanks for that.
we really love the Nellies. They were really right off the bat before Miles and I had sort of a proven platform, so gung ho about working with us and doing this thing, even though we at that point when we had spoken to them, we hadn't even gone live with the channel. So it was just a real leap of faith for them to get involved. And it wound up going so well that we, like Miles said, we still talk to them. In fact, they just connected us with another family in the Houston area with a really tragic case that we're working with right now. We're going to be covering that in probably the next 6 to 8 weeks. You'll see that one go up. But yeah, we love them, and obviously sending best wishes to Bob and hoping for a recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
And
right,
and for some answers while Bob's still with us, I mean that's
absolutely.
he's put so much energy and so much work into trying to find some answers on Liz's death. So that's what we all hope for.
Yeah, well said. So we're going to
Uh
switch gears
yeah.
right now. We want to talk a little bit about Missy Bevers, who we haven't really touched on that case in a couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
we've seen some comments kind of trickle in on our coverage of it from 2 months ago.
Which I got to say
So
is really, really cool that, as our audience is growing, people are kind of going back into the library and watching other cases. It's not like they're only watching the most current stuff. So, it's really, really great to see that.
it is. It is fun to see people comment on stuff from, I guess we could call it the True Crime Unsolved library, the archives. All right. So on the Missy case, Lorenda Schwartz says, I feel like it's a man. He had all night and was tired and nosy and really didn't know what valuables he'd find. He was up the road checking out a different business. He panicked when she confronted him, and that's about it. Right. So we're back to the burglar theory here. Yeah, I guess that we've talked about that so many times. So this person feels like it's a man, was a burglar, and basically was taking their time like they were because they felt like they had all night. Okay, yeah, I get it. What's interesting though is Lorenda says he was up the road checking out a different business. Do we know that?
Well, I
If
think that's
there's
probably referring to the footage of the car that
oh,
was sitting in the other parking lot. You
that
know.
makes sense. Yeah, we have heard that one before
Yep.
actually. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. And then he panicked when she confronted him, and that's about it. Yeah, yeah, I've already gone on the record many times to think that I don't think I agree in my gut with most of this, but I also don't know what happened. And I always want to like qualify my gut feeling here by saying you guys could be absolutely right. I'm not here to say I know better than you. I'm just going with my gut instinct is completely the opposite of this general sentiment. I do think that person was there to kill Missy. I don't know what the connection, if any, there was to the car across the street. And I don't think that a woman alone in a building at night who finds some creep like that is going to confront them. I think she's going to run. I know Missy was very strong. I know she was very confident, but that's a whole other can of worms, man. I don't think most people would confront that masked, armored individual in the middle of a dark building all by themselves at 4:30ish in the morning. I think almost all of us would turn around and get the hell out of there. So the confrontation thing, I have a hard time believing it. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it sort of goes against the common sense of human nature. She could have stumbled upon them and then it happened. I guess maybe I'm just bumping on the
Well,
word.
I think that's what most of these conversations, and look, we've done this to death with the, sorry, it's the bad use of word, but we've sort of talked about this burglar versus targeted killing a lot. Obviously it's one of the big conversations around Missy's death. But I think most people who believe in the thief, being surprised, nobody ever says that, Missy was like, "Hey, you, what are you doing?" I think it's more she stumbled upon it. She was probably shocked, and then the burglar was also shocked, and what happened happened. And maybe it's just a poor choice of words here. I wonder if I
Yeah, I don't mean to
wonder
be semantic about
yeah,
it.
well, I
I mean,
wonder if I don't know if it's Lauren de Schwartz or if it's Lorenda Schwartz, but I wonder if you're saying there was an actual confrontation there or not. Because yeah, no one's ever thought that Missy was like trying to be a vigilante and stop this person, right? I think that's a little out there.
yeah, maybe I put a little too much faith in the word confront in that sentence.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
might,
I
but
mean,
who
look,
knows? It's semantics,
it's
right?
totally possible, and certainly I think that I'm outvoted by most of our viewers as far as what the running theory is here. It seems like most people think that was a burglar, it was a wrong place, wrong time thing, and that when they ran into each other, something ensued that led to her death, and that is very possible. We'll never know until we know.
Right, exactly. The cold case HQ, how's it going? And thanks for the comment. I think it's a hitman work, although not professional. That's interesting. So what I would assume that means, and again, I'm reading into the comment a little bit. I think I'm trying to read deeper than what we have here, but that you're saying that it was someone who was brought in to go after Missy for a specific reason, right? Like they were there to get Missy, but they weren't necessarily like a professional killer. So yeah, I
Like
mean,
this was their first job as a
right,
professional killer.
exactly. I have to agree. I agree. I think I don't know that it's even a hitman. I think it might have been the person who had a problem with Missy. But I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, yeah, I think I just side with you on that one, Miles. Hitman potentially, but I also think it could be the actual person who would have hired a hitman to begin with, just doing it themselves. Again, it's so hard to know. The costume and everything of it all is it just adds a lot of confusion around that. But I would agree with one thing. I don't think it was a professional, super well planned out thing. It seems very strange, even just down to the fact that that person's on camera for so long. No professional killer would put themselves in that position, disguise or not,
Right.
knowingly.
Right.
So, yeah,
You want to take this next one?
sure. This looks like Brinna 7 or Bryna 7. They say it's insane how people are always claiming these surveillance videos of murderers are women. Women don't murder anywhere near to the degree that men murder. Also, the father-in-law is an exact match with the walk, and he's buddies with the police.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a couple pieces of that I guess I'll take. It is interesting that a lot of people think it's a woman. I have leaned that way myself, and I think I still kind of do, just based on our conversation with the true crime bras and everything that they've dug up. And looking at the way that the person walks, I can't make much of it. I think so much has been ascribed to the gait of the killer. But when we consider that they're in this big, ridiculous, clunky costume, I don't know that we can expect their walk to be what they normally walk like anyway. So yeah, I think I lean a little bit towards maybe it being a woman just because the motives kind of start to line up and make sense in Missy's life in that direction, more than the male direction. Of course, yes, the father-in-law, the husband, the people that everybody wants to look at first. I know I've heard that the father-in-law has a very similar or exact, walking style to this person. But I think we also discovered that he was cleared by the police, and so was the husband. So unless they made some grievous error there and they've been fooled by these people, I think we got to kind of look in other places, right? When the police say this person's been cleared definitively of being the actual murderer, like they weren't there at that place and time. I don't know how much further you can push that. I mean, Miles, what do you think?
Um, there's a lot to unpack in this comment from Brina 7. So I don't think it was the father-in-law. I don't think that the Missy Bevers case is a case where we're looking at any sort of like cover up or possible, corruption on the part of law enforcement. I don't know that they did a great job when it first happened, because I think they might have been a little bit unprepared because there aren't a lot of murders in that area. But other people were brought in, and it seems like they did try really hard to solve the case. So I don't know about the, he's buddies with the police part. It's the first I've ever actually heard that. If you have more information about it, please feel free to share it with us. But I personally don't think that's what's going on with the Missy Bevers case. And yeah, men do commit more murder than women, but sometimes women do murder, and sometimes women have reasons to murder. And as Sean said, everything that we've been able to, uncover, and, what the true crime broads have spent years, working on with Missy's case, it does seem like if there was any motive to go after her, it probably was coming from some form of jealousy and, in that realm. And a woman, to me, does make sense going along with the awkward gait, the sort of like bagginess of the outfit, all of those things that we've pointed out that other people have done far better and deeper analysis on the video. I do lean towards it being a woman. And look, we don't know until we know, as Sean said earlier so eloquently. But yeah, I don't think it was the father-in-law. I don't think this is a case of police corruption. And I do think that there was a woman who had, issues with Missy, and, perhaps would have been unhinged enough to do this.
Yeah, I mean, going back to our convo with the true crime bras, it actually feels to me, and I'm going to be clear, this is just my conjecture here, that the police may know exactly who did this, and they just are waiting for the slam dunk evidence to charge and bring it to court. That happens, unfortunately, more than I think we all like to admit to ourselves. Just because a crime is unsolved on paper doesn't mean that the cops don't know who did it. And again, based on our combo with the true crime broads, I really do think that might be happening here. And the person that I think they might be looking at is a woman, and it is over sort of a jealousy thing. I'm
Yeah.
really out on the end of a long limb of speculation right now. So I'm going to walk back towards the solid trunk of facts that we know, which is that this person is already super strange, whether it's a man, woman, father-in-law, or stranger. So, yeah, men murder more than women, but look at all the other weird stuff going on here. Clearly, already we're dealing with an outlier. So I would
Yeah.
put away some of our normal toolkit and just accept that some things about this murder are going to be different than the norm, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
agreed on all that. So I mean that's pretty much it, guys. Actually, I'm gonna read one more comment from my old friend Larry, who is a stalwart supporter of the channel. And he says, "Nice plant, man. Don't mean to leave you out." And I believe that's for Sean because
Thanks, Larry.
Larry had complimented my buddy that I have here in London. And Sean's got like three plants now,
I'm
I see.
overcompensating. I can see one, two, three, four at least in what
Oh
I'm
wow.
looking at
Yeah, a
here.
lot of
So
greenery. Oh yeah,
you can
you
tell
got
it
a
really made an impact on me, Larry, when you complimented Miles's plant. I felt like I had to swing for the fences to get your attention.
you've
So
got a
thank you.
bonsai. Oh, I see you've got one. Yeah, you have like every type of indoor plant there is.
Yeah,
That's
yep, I
fantastic.
like plants.
Well, listen, guys, we just got a message from YouTube actually like within the last, I think, 24 hours that we've crossed the threshold of 4,000 subscribers, which I know it doesn't sound huge in the grand scheme of things, but for us, it's a really big deal. This has been all organic. This is just us, two guys recording these interviews, cutting these videos ourselves, posting them up. And we've been at it for about 6 months, and we're really, really, really grateful that so many people are subscribing. Obviously, more people are watching than are subscribing. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, please, please think about hitting that little subscribe button, hitting the bell for the notifications so that you know when we are posting the next video. It really does help us. It boosts us in the algorithm, and it helps keep getting these stories out to a wider and wider audience, which I think is why we're all here.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we'll see you next time in the comments.
Thanks, everybody.